You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Your business needs AI solutions that are not only ambitious, but also practical and adaptable. That's where Domo's AI and data products platform comes in. With Domo, you can channel AI and data into innovative uses that deliver measurable impact. Secure AI agents connect, prepare, and automate your data workflows, helping you gain insights, receive alerts, and act with ease through guided apps tailored to your role. Data is hard. Domo is easy. Learn more at ai.domo.com. That's ai.domo.com.
CISA says it'll continue monitoring Russian cyber threats. Broadcom patches 0 days that can lead to VM escape. Google patches 43 bugs, including 2 sneaky 0 days. CISA flags vulnerabilities exploited in the wild. Palau's health ministry recovers from a ransomware attack. Lost and found, or lost and leaked? On this week's Threat Vector segment, David Moulton previews an episode with Hollie Hennessy on IoT cybersecurity risk mitigation, and next week's special International Women's Day episode featuring the trailblazing women from Palo Alto Networks sharing their cybersecurity journeys and leadership insights. And is that really you? Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. I'm Maria Varmazes, host of T-Minus Space Daily, in for Dave Bittner. And this is your Cyberwire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us on this lovely Tuesday. Let's get into our Daily Intel Briefing. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, will continue monitoring cyber threats from Russia, asserting that media reports to the contrary are false. The Guardian reported over the weekend that CISA staff received a memo directing them to prioritize threats from China with no mention of Russia. Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at DHS, told Cyberscoop that such a memo was never sent, adding, CISA remains committed to addressing all cyber threats to U.S. critical infrastructure, including from Russia. There has been no change in our posture or priority on this front. The Guardian's story is separate from reports that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered Cyber Command to halt offensive operations against Russia during negotiations over the war in Ukraine. The Pentagon hasn't officially commented on these reports, but Bloomberg cites an anonymous senior defense official as saying that Hegseth has neither canceled nor delayed any cyber operations directed against malicious Russian targets, and there has been no stand-down order whatsoever from that priority. Kim Zetter at 0 Day has written up a useful summary that clarifies reporting on these two stories, and we have a link to that piece in our show notes for you. Broadcom has issued patches for 3 actively exploited 0 days affecting VMware ESX and any products that contain ESX, including vSphere, Cloud Foundation, and Telco Cloud Platform, according to a report from Security Week. Broadcom warns that the vulnerabilities can lead to a virtual machine escaping, stating that this is a situation where an attacker who has already compromised a virtual machine's guest OS and gained privileged access, administrator or root, could move into the hypervisor itself. In March 2025, Google released security updates addressing 43 vulnerabilities in Android, notably to 0 days actively exploited in targeted attacks. One of them, identified as CVE 2024-50302, is a high-severity information disclosure flaw in the Linux kernel's human interface device driver. This vulnerability was reportedly leveraged by Serbian authorities using an exploit chain developed by Israeli firm Celebrite to unlock confiscated devices. The exploit chain also included a USB video class 0 day and an ALSA USB sound driver 0 day, both discovered by Amnesty International Security Lab in mid-2024. Google had previously provided fixes for these vulnerabilities to OEM partners in January. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has updated its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog to include several critical security flaws, underscoring the importance of timely remediation to protect organizational networks. And the newly added vulnerabilities are a critical path traversal vulnerability in Progress WhatsUp Gold, which could allow unauthenticated remote code execution, a medium severity command injection vulnerability in Cisco Small Business RV Series routers, enabling arbitrary command execution or authentication bypass. Notably, Cisco has stated it will not release a fix for this issue. A pair of vulnerabilities, both affecting Hitachi Vantara Pentaho BA server, which could involve special element injection and authorization bypass, and an improper resource shutdown or release flaw in Microsoft Windows Win32K, which could be exploited to execute arbitrary code. Federal agencies are mandated to address these vulnerabilities by March 24, 2025. CISA strongly recommends that all organizations, regardless of sector, prioritize the remediation of these vulnerabilities to mitigate potential exploitation risks. And we do have the CVEs for all these vulnerabilities in our selected reading for you, should you need them. The island nation of Palau's Ministry of Health and Human Services, or MHHS, is recovering from a ransomware attack that it sustained on February 17th, according to a report from The Record. The ministry attributed the attack to the Chilean ransomware gang, adding that the crooks were able to exfiltrate data during the incident. The MHHS stated that based on the kind of information that's been stolen, MHHS and its cyber advisors do not perceive any significant impact to the security of individual Palauans. However, MHHS recommends that all Palauans remain vigilant against potential fraud and or phishing emails that may attempt to use this incident as a means of getting you to release personal information. The ministry added that the attack was a heinous crime by greedy cybercriminals that has put our ability to provide critical medical care and life-saving emergency services at risk. A Defend Forward team from U.S. Cyber Command is on site assisting with the investigation. A recent security lapse exposed 14 unprotected databases containing approximately 820,750, but who's counting, sensitive records totaling 122 gigs from lost and found software, which is utilized by airports across the United States, Canada, and Europe. Discovered by cybersecurity researcher Jeremiah Fowler, the breach included detailed information on lost items, such as medical devices, electronics, wallets, and bags, and personally identifiable information of their owners. Notably, high-resolution images of passports, driver's licenses, and other identification documents were accessible, heightening risks of identity theft and fraud. Additionally, screenshots of payment confirmations, shipping labels, and original receipts were exposed. Upon notification, the company promptly secured the databases, and this incident underscores the critical need for robust data protection measures in handling sensitive customer information. U.S. newspaper publisher Lee Enterprises is still grappling with a ransomware attack that occurred on February 3rd, according to a report from TechCrunch. Freelancers and contractors who work for the company told TechCrunch that they haven't been paid for their work since the attack took place. One contractor is owed thousands of dollars and has no timeline for when Lee's payment system will be up and running again. Lee Enterprises itself has avoided using the term ransomware, but it mentioned in an SEC filing that the attackers encrypted critical applications and exfiltrated certain files. The Chilean ransomware gang last week claimed responsibility for the attack, and the filing also noted that the incident disrupted distribution of products, billing, collections, and vendor payments. In response to Australia's recent legislation that bans social media access for children under 16, TikTok has criticized the government's decision to exempt YouTube from this ban, labeling it a sweetheart deal that is illogical, anti-competitive, and short-sighted. This sentiment is echoed by other tech giants, including Meta Platforms and Snapchat, who argue that YouTube offers similar features to those that led to the ban, such as algorithmic content recommendations and exposure to potentially harmful material. Mental health experts have also raised concerns about YouTube's potential to expose children to addictive and dangerous content, questioning the consistency and fairness of the exemption. Coming up after our break, we've got our Threat Vector segment with host David Moulton from Palo Alto Networks. And even your Zoom calls might be catfishing you.
Cyber threats are more sophisticated than ever. Passwords, they're outdated and can be cracked in a minute. Cyber criminals are intercepting SMS codes and bypassing authentication apps. While businesses invest in network security, they often overlook the front door, the login. Yubico believes the future is passwordless. YubiKeys offer unparalleled protection against phishing for individuals, SMBs, and enterprises. They deliver a fast, frictionless experience that users love. Yubico is offering N2K followers a limited buy one, get one offer. Visit yubico.com/N2K to unlock this deal. That's YUBICO. Say no to modern cyber threats. Upgrade your security today. Hey everybody, Dave here. Have you ever wondered where your personal information is lurking online? Like many of you, I was concerned about my data being sold by data brokers. So I decided to try Delete Me. I have to say, Delete Me is a game changer. Within days of signing up, they started removing my personal information from hundreds of data brokers. I finally have peace of mind knowing my data privacy is protected. Delete Me's team does all the work for you with detailed reports, so you know exactly what's been done. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and enter code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K.
Our Threat Vector segment has host David Moulton sharing previews of 2 upcoming episodes. On this Thursday's episode, he speaks with Hollie Hennessy, who is the principal analyst for IoT cybersecurity at Omdia, to discuss how attackers exploit vulnerabilities in connected environments and the best approaches for risk mitigation. The next week, on Thursday, March 13th, David shares 4 conversations with some of the trailblazing women at Palo Alto Networks in honor of International Women's Day and Women's History Month.
On Thursday, March 6th, I'm chatting with Hollie Hennessy, principal analyst for IoT cybersecurity at Omdia, to talk about OT security. We'll discuss how attackers exploit vulnerabilities in connected environments and the best approaches for risk mitigation. Hollie also shares her insights on the evolving risk posed by IoT devices, from industrial control systems to consumer technology. Plus, she has a great security joke.
Where did the threat actor go?
I don't know. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Hollie Hennessy, welcome to Threat Vector. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I was recently talking to a journalist about the underrated and the overrated, the underreported and the overreported in our industry. Do you look at OT as one of these areas that is underreported, underrepresented, overrepresented, overreported? How would you position it on that kind of quadrant?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think if you're looking at cybersecurity, IoT security, obviously gets all the kind of glamour and the glory. I would say OT security is way smaller a space, so it's a lot more niche. I don't think everyone is as interested in it. I don't think everyone understands it as much. So in that sense, it's kind of under-focused on, I would say. I obviously find it incredibly interesting. I think it is super interesting for people who are kind of, perhaps wanting to learn more about the space. There's a lot that is different to IT, but there's also a lot in the cybersecurity space on the IT side in general that can kind of transfer over. If you think of any of the large events, you're way more likely to see IT security focused talks, technology. There's way less on OT. So Yeah, I would say it's perhaps under represented, but I think those that are in the space do a good job at showing how interesting it is and showing why it's so important to kind of focus on.
Hollie, your research highlights secure remote access, or SRA, as this key feature in many OT security platforms. Why has SRA become such a critical capability, and how does it impact risk management and operational resilience?
Yeah, so secure remote access has a lot of promise, I think. It's one of the fastest growing areas of the market. So, a lot of organizations are looking for this technology, but there's still relatively decent sizable gap in the market for vendors to be filling. So in the most recent report, there's quite a few vendors that are offering this natively. It's much more so than a couple of years ago. It was kind of few and far between. And now there's also a lot partnering with specialists in the space, because there are also more point products that are kind of offering this to meet that demand from customers. And I think it really stands out in OT security, given that, these environments and how they're working, how users are kind of connecting. There's been a lot of discussion around zero trust in OT, what that means, and how that kind of translates or looks different to an IT sense. I think crucially, part of that is including users and everything else that you shouldn't trust. But secure remote access is really kind of standing out in terms of that access. Also, the R in that, the remote, I think has kind of expanded to access in general. So it's not necessarily remote users, but could be users who are regularly accessing equipment as well. So being able to monitor that activity, I think, is really useful. Obviously, it enhances visibility, again, within the organization. But it can be a really useful way to mitigate risk and kind of reduce that likelihood of a threat in the environment. So yeah, kind of adding that technology into the platform can be useful, because you've already got technology there. It's already going to kind of factor into your monitoring and your threat detection activities. But as I said, there are a lot more integrations as well, with more of the point products in the space for secure access.
So let's shift to look into the future a little bit. The report discusses ongoing convergence between IT and OT security. Are we moving towards a fully unified security operations center, or SOC? And do you see IT and OT security remaining separate? Or do you see IT and OT security remaining separate for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, so based on my research, it's a bit of a mix at this point in time. So I would say there are more who have a converged SOC covering both IT and OT, rather than a separate IT and OT SOC. But it's not. It's not the majority. So there's around 40% that have it converged. I would say 20% have OT only, and then you've got the rest that are doing it managed, and they have a third-party provider, or they just have an IT SOC. So I think something we do know is that the vast amount of organizations, whether you have got a separate SOC or not, you're using OT or IIoT specific tooling rather than IT. So, they much prefer to purchase specialist technology rather than IT, and kind of utilizing that in the space. So I think integrations are really important, whether or not you're doing it separate or converged. What really stands out to me is that OT and industrial Internet of Things have to be included from an IT point of view. I don't think you can be an industrial organization or a critical infrastructure organization and be looking at it from just IT. If you're looking at kind of your risk management, you need to be factoring in these devices. So integrating with specialist tech, regardless of who the kind of provider is going to be really important for a SOC. On the other hand, we know that many incidents originate in IT and then they impact OT in some roundabout way. So you also can't really silo OT and industrial Internet of Things. So, converging the SOC can alleviate some of those issues, and it's kind of some of the reasons why more organizations are kind of going down that route.
Then next week, on Thursday, March 13th, I'm sharing 4 conversations with some of the trailblazing women here at Palo Alto Networks. They'll share their journeys into cybersecurity. They'll share their journeys into cybersecurity, discuss the challenges they faced, and offer insights on leadership innovation, and mentorship. I cannot express how inspired I was by my peers, and I am so eager to share those stories.
Christy Fredericks, Chief Partnerships Officer at Palo Alto Networks. Can we say I've pursued a career in cybersecurity when it's been about 14 months out of my career? I was inspired by a couple things. I have always been drawn to mission-driven organizations. When I was early in my career, I thought that meant nonprofits. And I spent a little bit of time both in public education as well as in nonprofits. And I realized that I believed that I could have a better impact in the for-profit sector. I started my career in consulting, having an impact on my clients and making sure their businesses were operating effectively so that they could have strong careers and add value to their customers. I moved into technology. My first operating role was in the observability space. And the mission of that company was to help software run and perform well. And when you think about how much of our day-to-day life is dependent on software, that felt like an important mission. But there's nothing that really beats keeping the digital way of life safe. So as I was working in observability and making sure software runs properly, you could see how much of an opportunity there was for bad actors to attack software and really impact people's livelihoods, people's experiences. And it just felt like a really important industry. And what better company to pursue than Palo Alto Networks?
Tanya Shastri, Senior Vice President of Product Management at Palo. I lead our network security platform and product operation. In my early part of my career, I did a bunch of networking because I had studied telecommunications and networking and so on. I had also done some information theory in my master's, and that course had always been something I wanted to go back to. So I was very intentional at one point in my career to move to more of a data analytics, insights, machine learning, AI, all those kinds of things. And through that process, securing data became very important to understand. And I started working on what we called malicious fault-tolerant systems, Byzantine fault tolerance, and so on. And that kind of segued my interest into security. And that's what actually brought me to Palo Alto through that interest in security. And it's been so interesting because when it all comes together, actually security there's a lot of analytics and AI, as part of security.
My name is Salma Manjanda. I'm a consultant at Uni42. I think my main inspiration when it came to cybersecurity was the very first professor I actually had in cyber. I took a 2-unit elective in cyber, and I just kind of didn't really know what to expect. Lo and behold, a semester later, I was totally hooked. I credit it all to that professor of mine, Joe, from USC. He changed my outlook on so many different ways. He challenged me to think a different way and opened me up to a whole new world of possibilities. And when I decided that I wanted to pursue cybersecurity also, again, he was my mentor also during college. He really just was very, very encouraging in terms of helping guide me through what classes to take, what kind of, career opportunities there were. And so that whole program just totally changed my life in many different ways.
My name is Stephanie Regan, principal consultant on the IR team with Unit 42. Generally, I have always had a mission-driven desire to help others. So everything that we do day in, day out, whether it's working a ransomware recovery case or building a better way to respond during crises or improving protections to prevent crises from happening in the future, the work that we do day in and day out is impactful to the other people that are on the other side of our services. I was really attracted to cybersecurity and even just the tech field in general based on the growth and opportunity that is presented in a rapidly evolving environment. So tech is changing every single day. We've seen the advent of AI. We've seen, so many different implementations of new technologies over the years that the hunger and desire to just keep learning and growing as the field evolves and change and pivot to the next technology or the next big thing is something that's really exciting. And I just hate stagnation. So I'm a person that gets very bored or upset if I'm sitting still and not moving forward in my career, in my life. So I was really attracted to cyber and tech, which in its nature is constantly evolving. And I get to be a lifelong learner and continue to grow as the field develops.
Don't miss the full episodes every Threat Vector Thursday. Subscribe now to stay ahead. Oh, and by the way, if you're in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest and want to meet up, email me at threatvector@paloaltonetworks.com. I'm always looking for industry leaders and fascinating guests for the show.
Don't miss the full episodes of Threat Vector every Thursday. You can find the link to subscribe in our show notes.
And now, a message from Black Cloak. Did you know the easiest way for cyber criminals to bypass your company's defenses is by targeting your executives and their families at home? Black Cloak's award-winning digital executive protection platform secures their personal devices, home networks, and connected lives. Because when executives are compromised at home, your company is at risk. In fact, over 1/3 of new members discover they've already been breached. Protect your executives and their families 24/7, 365 with Black Cloak. Learn more at blackcloak.io.
Deepfake technology is no longer a futuristic threat. It's very much here, and it's already wreaking havoc. Last year, deepfake attacks in video calls surged by a staggering 300%. Cybercriminals are using AI to impersonate people in real time, bypassing facial recognition systems and tricking even the savviest professionals. Even more troubling, these powerful tools are no longer just in the hands of elite hackers. They're now available in crime-as-a-service markets, making it easier than ever for anyone to spoof an identity and launch a scam. The old tricks like asking someone to look left to catch a distortion just aren't cutting it anymore. This is a serious wake-up call for businesses. Traditional identity verification methods are quickly becoming outdated. To keep up with these evolving threats, companies need to implement multi-layered defenses, deploy advanced deepfake detection tools, and, most importantly, train employees to spot these sophisticated scams. As deepfake technology continues to evolve at lightning speed, it is essential to rethink how we verify identities and stay one step ahead of cybercriminals. So stay vigilant, because those video calls might not be as real as they seem. And that's the Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our Cyberwire producer is Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Trey Hester with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilby is our publisher. And I'm Maria Varmazes in for Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
And now, a message from our sponsor, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Enterprises have spent billions of dollars on firewalls and VPNs, Yet breaches continue to rise by an 18% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks and a $75 million record payout in 2024. These traditional security tools expand your attack surface with public-facing IPs that are exploited by bad actors more easily than ever with AI tools. It's time to rethink your security. Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI stops attackers by hiding your attack surface, making apps and IPs invisible, eliminating lateral movement, connecting users only to specific apps, not the entire network, continuously verifying every request based on identity and context, simplifying security management with AI-powered automation, and detecting threats using AI to analyze over 500 billion daily transactions. Hackers can't attack what they can't see. Protect your organization with Zscaler Zero Trust and AI. Learn more at zscaler.com/security.